my fellow travelers. Welcome. Thank y'all for tagging along on this journey with a vertical farming researcher, me, your host, William Gleason. So on this week's episode, we will be discussing the APA format, or the American Psychological Association format, for writing our research papers. Now, this was a very recent topic for me, considering that I just now switched my topic over to studying, to implementing the APA format. I, for all my life, have been using the MLA format, so it was an adventure for me, as it is an adventure for y'all. So basically, the APA format is actually very similar to MLA format. It's just a little intimidating because it's a completely different style. In the MLA format, we're all very familiar with that very standard heading with, your name, your instructor's name, the class, and then the date. And then below in the center space, you have the title. Well, in APA, it's a little different. You don't have that style of, you don't have that same heading style on the first page. Instead, you have a title page, and that's where you include some of the following pieces of information. As one may see here, we first have the title of the document, and in this case, it is the annotated bibliography. Then we have the name with the middle initial included, your department, so in this case, the Department of Career and Technical Education, then your school or university that you're attending, Wakeland High School, and then you have your class code, and then the name of your class, your instructor's name, and the date that it's supposed to be turned in. Now, no, on the 6th edition of APA, we would have something called a running header, and it would say running header, and then it would have the title of your paper. But in this instance, it is actually omitted for students, but running headers are only used for professionals papers, so those who have already graduated from the universities. And in page numbers, you do not include your last name like you would in a typical MLA format paper. This past week in AP Research, we had started our writing the annotated bibliography process. The funny thing is about APA format, however, is that they don't really have a specified format for how they want annotated bibliographies. Yes, there is a specified format for referencing your sources, and it is called references, and then you list your citations below, but there isn't necessarily a strict conduct which you need to follow in order to write annotated bibliography. It says it's really up to your instructor and their preferred method how to do it. And I was researching around, and a lot of preferences are just to do the same MLA style for annotated bibliographies. So I just continued writing the annotated bibliographies the way that I was, using the slideshow presentation requirements, talking about the summary of significant findings, evaluation of credibility, and the reflection of whether or not the source will be used, and why not, or why not. And so here is the annotated bibliography. So here is my annotated bibliography section. Notice how the header title up above here is actually bolded. That is something that APA format does that MLA does not. I know MLA has a strict no bold policy, but that's a little bit different in APA because they use boldings in order to differentiate between different types of headers. So like if you have subtopics, you would use different styles of bolding and indents and italics. I may go over that another day, but not for right now, at least until I start writing the main portion of my research paper. So, and here we have above basically the same format as MLA. We have the citation up here, and then we have the annotation down here, which answers the primary questions involved. And so for this next section, we will be talking about the differences between the citations, the citation styles between MLA format and APA format. These are the biggest changes that one will see when comparing the two different styles of formats. Keep in mind that it's honestly going to be very confusing, but if we just pay attention and stay focused together, we will get through this. So I try to organize the different styles and compare them against each other in a way that's very easy to read. So we have the MLA at top, the APA at bottom. We have the format and then the example, format example. So starting with MLA, which is what we're most familiar with, we can see in the citation that you first start with the the author, then the title in quotations, the title of the container, then other contributors, version, number, publisher, publication date. But often these four will not be used quite often, as you can see in this example down bottom. But publication date and location, which is actually like your URL or like the location where you found it, is necessary, and date of access is only applicable. Many people choose to omit it. So we can see this example down here for the article Elon Musk's brother wants to transform farming, which is the same article as my first annotated bibliography above here. And we can see the style over here. So now moving down to APA format, the format is a little bit more simplistic. So you have the last name of the author, their first initial, and then their middle initial. Then you have the date in parentheses, which year, month, date. And then the title of the page is italicized, not in quotations like it is in MLA format. And then the site name, and then the URL last. So the URL last is typical in both of these, except on APA, you don't have to use any date of access. So in the example down bottom, you have that implemented here for the same article, and you can compare and contrast these two examples against each other and see that although they look very different, like the styles, it's basically the same type of information. So not very big changes between the different styles, even though, I mean, obviously there are, and it's very important to follow these. So now in this section, we're going to talk about in-text citations and the differences between MLA and APA in-text citations, which they're extremely similar. So there's no need to worry, but please pay attention because it is critical that we follow this correctly. Once again, organized it with MLA at top and APA at bottom. MLA we're more familiar with, so let's start with the MLA section. We have the quote here in quotations, but we make sure that we don't have any periods around here unless there would be an exclamation point or a question mark. And then afterwards, we include the parenthetical citation with the author's last name and then the paragraph number, and then the period afterwards. Now in APA, it's basically the same concept. So we have the quotation, I mean the the evidence here, no period here, but then in the parenthetical citation, oops, let me add that real quick. Okay, we have the author's last name, comma, the year was published, comma, and then it would be P dot if it was a page number, but in this instance it's a paragraph, so we have to say para dot and then 15 for the 15th paragraph. It's very important to follow these minor details because those can cost you huge amounts of points overall. Okay, so now that we all have a very good concept of the difference between MLA and APA, I'm gonna explain a little bit about why to use APA and why to use MLA and other styles as well. So most people would prefer one single style to write with for the rest of their lives. It just seems like it would be easier to have a universal standard for like how to write papers and like academic papers, etc. But there's definitely some key differences and advantages that one has over the other. So the MLA version is really used for like humanities papers, like your typical English rhetorical analysis essay, which a lot of people recently have just written, or just like analysis over a book that was just written. And the style generally does flow a little bit better for them. It's more suited for that style. But the APA version is mainly used for more of the sciences stuff, so a lot of scientific research, which is why I'm using APA because I am researching the vertical farming. It definitely helps a lot because of the different, like, you know, you can implement headers and that can organize your research a lot better and in a manner that flows a lot better. But there's also other styles out there. For example, another popular one is Chicago, but that's mainly used by business, history, and fine arts, as it says right there. And that style obviously would flow best for them and is accustomed and adapted for them. Anyways, I just wanted to say thank y'all so much for tuning in this week. I am glad that y'all could have learned something new and hope to see y'all next week. And you will be willing to succeed. Thank you. Bye.